Hello, gem hunter. This man is about to destroy a real diamond. But can a hammer destroy a real diamond? Well, you've probably been told that diamond is the hardest substance in the universe. But is it indestructible, or is it just really hard? So what do you think? Well, in my opinion, it would be crazy to destroy a real diamond of considerable size just to do this test. But still, there are people who have done this test to find out the truth. But before I tell you the truth about diamonds, whether they break or not, I'm going to explain what it means to say that diamonds are the hardest substance on the face of the earth, and dispel all the myths and lies you've been told about diamonds. Because that's what gives it that beautiful, glittering, metallic sheen. And it's also what makes it the most sought-after gemstone of all time. You'll also learn some simple tests to find out if what you're holding is an authentic diamond or not. These tests are safe and will keep your stone intact. So back to the question that won't go away. Can a diamond be broken? The answer is yes. Because even though a diamond is the hardest substance on Earth, it is not the most tenacious, meaning that it is good at scratching other materials, but not the best at withstanding violent impacts. Even many laymen end up destroying valuable diamonds, thinking that this is a hardness test designed to identify diamonds. So if you don't want to be one of those people, be aware that no diamond identification test requires you to hit the diamond roughly with anything, be it a hammer or a sledgehammer. Don't do that. You could end up destroying a possible opportunity to make a lot of money. With this hardness in mind, a subscriber to our channel once asked why we don't make bulletproof vests out of diamonds, since they are the hardest substance in existence. Well, let's imagine that there was a technology to make synthetic diamonds on a large scale for a very cheap price. And we could make a diamond vest like the one in the Hobbit movie. The impact of a bullet from a firearm is as destructive as a hammer, which, depending on the angle of impact, could just as easily put a hole in your diamond vest because of the low toughness of this mineral. Bulletproof vests are made of a very tough material designed to absorb the energy of projectile impact.
Did it hurt? The answer is, it certainly did hurt. It hurt a lot.
So if you suspect your stone is a diamond, whether cut or rough, don't do a hardness test by hitting the stone to test its toughness. As I mentioned earlier, there are other, safer tests that you can do at home for very little cost. And none of them involve hammers, but then many people wonder how the hardest substance can be broken by a hammer. So to understand how a safe hardness test that you can do at home works, you need to look at the difference between hardness and toughness. Toughness is the ability of a material to absorb energy or take an impact without breaking. Hardness, on the other hand, has to do with a material's ability to resist wear and friction. Because of this, many lay people confuse these two properties and think that hardness and toughness are the same thing. So when scientists say that diamond is the hardest mineral in existence, many lay people end up thinking, okay, so diamonds are nearly indestructible. But it doesn't work like that. Take the example of the hammer. We use hammers to break rocks, drive nails, lever things, but the main characteristic of a hammer is its toughness. You can break even a large jasper stone, which has a hardness of 7 on the Mohs scale. However, the steel used to make a hammer only has a hardness of 5.5 on the Mohs scale, which means that in terms of hardness, the hammer has inferior toughness. Nevertheless, I can reduce a jasper stone to dust with a hammer. But how is this possible? Well, the hammer may be less hard, but it is much tougher. The hammer won't break even if you hit it hard. If you hit the metal too hard, you might even dent it, but it won't break, not easily. And this is a common property of metals, but not of crystals. In general, the harder a mineral is, the less tough it is. That's why an impact will shake its structure and cause it to break easily. But if you cut the hammer in half with a diamond saw, could you break it in two? Well, in this case, yes, because the diamond has a maximum hardness of 10 Mohs compared to 5.5 Mohs for the hammer. The principle of hardness has to do with resistance to scratching, wear and tear of the material. A diamond is so hard that only another diamond can scratch it and nothing else. That's why diamonds are considered to be virtually eternal. After all, what mineral on Earth is hard enough to scratch a diamond? And from this explanation, we can start the first test, which is very simple, quick, and homemade, which we always talk about here on the channel. Using the second hardest mineral in the world, known as corundum, whether it's a ruby or a sapphire, but I know you probably don't have a ruby or a sapphire at home to test a stone to see if it's a diamond or not. So you're going to use water sandpaper made of a material called carborundum, which is an industrial ruby with a hardness of 9.25. This is higher than the hardness of a natural ruby. This sandpaper will scratch anything except a real diamond, which has a hardness of 10 on the Mohs scale. So just buy some water sandpaper and test your suspect stone by rubbing it hard against the sandpaper. But be aware that if you have a cut stone and it's not a diamond, you could end up ruining your stone, so be careful. There is also a rumor that diamonds can cut glass. But is this true? Well, it is true. In fact, you'd be surprised how many people have almost been kicked out of their homes or nearly broken up a marriage because they scratched the mirror or glass in their house with a stone to see if it was a diamond. Exaggeration aside, as with the previous tests, many lay people think that only a diamond can cut glass. But going back to the question of hardness, like the hammer, glass is about 5.5 on the Mohs scale, and an ordinary stone, such as river quartz, has a hardness of 7 Mohs. And it can also scratch glass, so there are many common stones that we find in nature that scratch glass because the quartz family is huge. We have amethyst, citrine, jasper, agate, chalcedony, onyx, and many other stones that have a hardness of 7 and scratch glass easily. Not to mention other stones with a higher hardness that also scratch glass. So when you do this test, don't ruin the glass in your home. Do the test with water sandpaper, which is much safer and more effective. If you have a stone that you suspect may be a diamond, I recommend that you perform all possible tests, which you can check out in the previous video on how to identify diamonds, where you'll learn several home tests to identify whether you have a diamond or not. But to take advantage of this opportunity, I'm going to show you 3 quick tips to find out if you have a diamond or not. The first tip is the size of the stone, if it's too big. Be careful because the chances of it being a diamond are very small. It's not impossible, but in terms of probability, your chances are minimal. Because big diamonds do exist, but they come from super deep mines, dug by companies, and are still a rarity. But how big? Well, up to the size of a peanut, because that's considered big for a diamond. Anything larger than a peanut has very little chance of being a real diamond. But it's not impossible if you're very lucky. If your stone has a luster that looks like a piece of broken glass, it has very little chance of being a diamond. This is because the luster of a diamond is a metallic luster. The second tip is the metallic luster, so if it looks like glass. In this case, your stone could be a quartz crystal. If your stone is very white, the chances also decrease because clear diamonds are very rare. Diamonds come in an infinite number of colors, and we often find yellow, gray, and even black diamonds in nature, rather than the perfectly white ones we see cut in the movies. But the metallic luster of a diamond is unmistakable, even in its rough state. So if you want to see if there's a diamond among the stones you find lying around, don't expect to find only very white and clear stones. There are other qualities to diamonds. In fact, many people have found a diamond in nature and discarded it because it wasn't that bright and clear. Remember, where there's one diamond, there's more. And if you have a stone that has passed the water sandpaper test with no scratches or wear, you have a stone with good potential to be a diamond, and it's worth checking out. Diamonds are a highly coveted gemstone and are found in various places around the world, including Africa, Asia, North, and South America. We've already made a video here that shows 7 places that are open to the public where you can find diamonds and other gemstones such as rubies, opals, and sapphires, as well as other videos where I show you firsthand what indicates the presence of diamonds in a particular region. For example, garnets, diopside, mica, white quartz, kimberlite fragments, and other minerals that indicate the presence of diamonds. And in case you didn't know, one of the most accessible places to look for these indications I just mentioned is in rivers, including those that have dried up. And here's why. If you take a diamond and a river rock of the same size, the diamond is going to be much heavier. So as much as the current has the power to carry the diamonds for miles downstream, at some point that diamond is going to end up sinking between the river rocks and getting buried in the gravel. And I say that because you can find diamonds anywhere along a river as long as you look in the alluvial deposits, better known as alluvial fans. In other words, to simplify things, these alluvial deposits are the gravel that accumulates in the riverbeds and bends of rivers. But despite all this, people still have doubts about how to find and identify real diamonds in nature. No wonder, because finding diamonds, although rewarding, is not an easy task, as they are rare gems, since their formation depends on extreme pressure and temperature conditions. However, many of the places where diamonds can be found have never been explored. So in today's video, I'm going to answer all of your questions so that you have the minimum knowledge necessary to find out if there might be diamonds in the rivers in your region. So stick with me for a few more seconds because this video is going to change the way you look at things. Before you start, you need to identify the diamond indicators, which I'll explain in more detail below. But to start prospecting, all you need are sieves, which is certainly the easiest and cheapest way to start looking for diamonds. If you can get your hands on 3 or 6 different size sieves, you're good to go. But now let's talk a little more about the most accessible place to find a diamond, which is river alluvium. And to do that, you have to identify the minerals that are present in these alluvial deposits. Just look at how they are full of stones and gravel, sand and silt. That's where diamonds can get trapped, often buried by all that material because of their high density. So if you use the sifters that I've mentioned here on this river, you may be able to find a diamond or some other rare mineral like rubies and sapphires. And as I've said in other videos, these alluvial deposits were usually formed millions of years ago. And that's why diamonds and other precious minerals like gold and titanium can be buried in this alluvial gravel. Now answer me a question. Have you ever seen this type of gravel in a river in your area? If the answer is yes, then stay tuned because there is certainly a possibility of finding diamonds in your area. But don't get me wrong, the goal of this channel is to encourage you to develop this incredible and therapeutic hobby that keeps you in touch with nature. As I've said before, diamonds are hard to find, but this is the kind of information that can change your financial life forever if you find a good diamond in the wild. But the best diamonds are found in underground mines. And now you may be asking yourself, but how am I supposed to find a diamond in a river? Well, let me show you. Look at this rock here. This is the famous Kimberlite rock. If you find one of these rocks in your area, there's a good chance you'll find diamonds nearby. These Kimberlite rocks are nothing more than lava that comes from the Earth's mantle through volcanic eruptions. In this process, the diamonds that are formed in this region end up being brought along with this lava, which when it cools ends up trapping the diamonds inside. However, over the course of thousands of years, the forces of nature end up fragmenting some of the kimberlitic rocks, releasing the diamonds trapped inside. The diamonds are carried by the wind, torrential rains and downpours to the rivers, where they are deposited in the riverbeds or even on the beach. In the same way, diamonds that have been detached from a kimberlite by erosion and fallen into the riverbed can be carried to the beach by the current of the water. But what about diamonds found in rivers? Well, that's where you're going to need those sieves I mentioned earlier. You're going to find a clean spot with no rocks around. Then you're going to dig up the earth a bit to remove the gravel from the alluvial deposits. And you're going to start sifting the material. Start with the largest sieve and work your way down to the smallest, always keeping the smallest sieve under the largest so that the material that passes through the mesh of the largest sieve is caught in the smallest sieves. If you can get 5 or 6 degrees of screen, that would be even better. But let's assume for the moment that you're in an actual river with flowing water. Diamonds found in underground mines have a hexagonal shape with 6 sides like this. However, diamonds found in alluvial deposits, whether in dry rivers or flowing rivers, are rounder than diamonds taken directly from kimberlites. Diamonds found in rivers look like a semi-polished stone. Despite being the hardest mineral on Earth, they also suffer from the effects of thousands of years of wear and tear from friction with the other stones in the river. But then you may ask yourself, how can I tell a diamond from other common stones? It's easier than it sounds. There is one characteristic that only diamonds have, and that is their metallic luster. Take a look at the difference in luster between a rough diamond and other common stones. Can you see how metallic a diamond's luster is? I'm sure that if you find a diamond after watching this video, you will have no doubts. Of course, you'll need to do further tests to certify the diamond, But learning to look closely at the metallic luster of diamonds is more than enough. It may be hard to notice at first, but over time, by watching the videos here on the channel, you'll become familiar with the metallic luster of diamonds. If you look at a diamond from a distance, it will look like a piece of polished iron, not a stone. So if you notice something glittering in the gravel of the alluvial deposits, it's a good idea to start sifting. If you're lucky enough to find a diamond, it's likely to be quite small, so try finer sieves if possible. Another important factor now is the minerals that are indicators that there are diamonds in the river that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, because not every river is going to have diamonds. But how do you know if the river you're looking for has diamonds in it? In rivers that have diamonds, you'll find some minerals that are indicators of diamonds, which are mainly garnet, chromite, and ilmenite. In previous videos, I've talked about all the indicator minerals, but these three minerals are enough. Garnet, for example, is a gemstone that is much more common and cheaper than diamonds and is sometimes confused with rubies. However, there are some differences. The most common type found in rivers is Paropi garnet, which has a reddish, dark color, sometimes grayish. And you usually find them like this in rivers, in rounded cubic shapes, with several sides, sometimes semi-polished. Like rubies and diamonds, they are quite heavy compared to ordinary stones of the same size, some of which, when clear, are beautifully cut and can be worth a lot of money. But what is important here is that you recognize and find these stones. Because garnets are formed in volcanic rocks under conditions similar to those of diamonds, they can indicate that diamonds are present in the area, just like ilmenite. This is basically an oxide of iron and titanium. This mineral is black with a metallic luster. Its shape is trigonal and it can have some facets. It looks like a piece of raw iron, is very heavy, has a hardness of about 6 on the Mohs scale, and is a strong indication that diamonds may be present. Some emenites can even be mistaken for black diamonds at first glance. The third important indicator is chromite. This is also a type of iron oxide that contains iron and chromium and other combinations of minerals. It has a darker metallic appearance, but is more irregularly shaped, more rustic than ilmenite. They are also very heavy, much heavier than other stones of the same size. It will feel like a small piece of lead in the palm of your hand.
Are dunite, which is this one, and chromite, which is this one. Now they're very similar in colour. The dunite is exceptionally fresh here, and so is a greeny black kind of colour, whereas the chromite is more of a black.
Finding chromite in rivers is also a strong indication of the presence of diamonds, as well as sapphires and rubies. That's it. You found these minerals, but how do you get the diamonds out of the river? In a practical way? Well, you put some river gravel in the sieve and then you make circular movements, turning the sieve, because diamonds are heavy, more so than other stones, and they'll end up at the bottom of the gravel, along with garnets and ilmenites and chromites, if there are any, including gold, if there's any in the river. With circular movements, the heavier minerals will concentrate in the middle, and then you just have to do this process from the coarsest screen to the finest, just as I told you at the beginning of the video. At the end, just spread out the gravel from the sieve and look carefully, because now you're going to have to see the diamond with your eyes. But how do you do it? Diamonds don't have the same luster as ordinary quartz crystals, so don't be fooled by transparent stones. Look for the metallic sheen I showed you earlier. It will certainly catch your eye from a distance. Diamonds are very small, so keep your eyes open to make sure you don't miss them. Don't be fooled by big stones. And when I say big, I mean over a gram, which is pretty big for a diamond. One more important point, when you find your first diamond, remember that it can't always be a quality stone. There are darker colored diamonds that have a lower value and others full of inclusions that will only serve as industrial diamonds. But even if you find a low-quality diamond, it's already a reason to rejoice because you're on the right track. The place has real diamonds, and it's worth looking for more. Even if diamonds are not easy to find, it doesn't hurt to try. You never know when your lucky day will come, do you? And if you'd like to learn more about gem classification and gem identification methods, but don't have access to an experienced prospector or gemologist in your area to teach you, you can learn all about gems from the comfort of your own home by accessing our Gemology for Beginners ebook by clicking on the first link in the description of this video or in the comment box and getting started right away. And if you need to sell a diamond, Look for a reputable jewelry store in your area with good references and reliability. Be careful to avoid scams and ask for your diamond to be certified to make sure you're getting a fair deal. But if you're not sure about the difference between an ordinary crystal and a diamond, watch this video that's playing on your screen right now. Also, feel free to comment on what country you're from and if you found any gems out there. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Good luck, Gem Hunter.